Welcome to another edition of webinar series on MBA Roundtable, which we conduct with academic leaders and industry veterans. It sometimes seems that the world is changing more rapidly than ever before. Every week brings with it a new technology, a new app, or a method of working, and make things obsolete at a fast pace. We should be prepared for such changes. As the American author John Naisbitt wrote, the most important skill to acquire now is learning how to learn. If one inculcates this learning habit, he will definitely be on the path to success. To discuss these aspects of skilling, reskilling, and upskilling, we have with us our very special guest, Professor Janat Shah, Director, IIM Udaipur. And we shall be discussing with him on reskilling and upskilling young India. Professor Janat Shah is the founding director and professor of operations management at IIM Udaipur. After graduating as a mechanical engineer from IIT Mumbai, Professor Shah worked with industry for about 5 years. He has obtained his fellow in management from IIM Ahmedabad. He is a leading authority in the fields of supply chain management and operations strategy. His book has been used in MBA and executive MBA courses at IIM Bangalore, as well as at numerous other business schools. Professor Shah has consulted with and been responsible for management education programs for executives in several companies. So besides his other credentials, he is a great inspiration for students and faculty members who have had the chance to be mentored under his guidance. A very warm welcome to you, sir, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you, Anshul. Pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much, sir. So, sir, I'll start off with the first question for the day, please. So, as has been said, theoretical learning is good, but not using that knowledge practically is of no use. In this context, I wish to have your views on how theory and skills go hand in hand. I request your views, please.
Sure. So I think it's a very important question which we're all struggling with, especially in India today, because over a period of time, when we look at a higher education in a country today, right, we seem to have made a big strides in terms of having more students in a higher education system. Similarly, also schools, right? So for example, if you look at a gross enrollment ratio, which was about 10% in 2010, today in 2000 it was 10%, by 2010 it became about 18%, and today close to 26%. So a large number of youth in colleges. But the question is, what are they learning? And one of the big gaps seems to be they are not able to apply what they seems to learn in a real life environment. Now, we are a young country, our median age is 28 years. So, which means large number of people are young. A lot of them have just gone through this kind of education, are going to go through. And, as a country, we had looked at all this as demographic dividend. And we thought on this wave, we're going to ride and become a, very powerful economy. And we kept talking about this century is going to be India's century. But, if this youth who are not able to apply the ideas, are not prepared for a workforce, this whole, demographic dividend will become actually a millstone around our neck. So I think we need to solve this problem in terms of how do we, make sure whichever field you are in, right? So for example, engineering, right, or management. Finally, you're a professional, and you're going to work. You're preparing them for work, right? We're not preparing for you to do a research work.
Yeah.
Now, as an engineer, you should be able to solve problem. If I say only thing I know this theory, but when you put me in the actual world, I can't solve that problem. I think so. This is a huge gap which collectively we have to solve, right? So first, I think there is an acknowledgement that we have a huge problem on this front. whatever statistics people throw that 80% are, not employable, but those, whether it's a 75% or 85%, so those numbers are terrible. And we need to do something about it. And as a society, you know, we're being unfair to those young people when we get them to go through this higher education where they spend 3 or 4 years of their precious life, and at the end of it they discover they're not ready for work life. So I think it's a big problem which we need to solve, right? So I don't think uh, it's a choice, right?
Right.
It's something which people have been talking about it, now realize, but how do you put it into action is going to be a one huge challenge.
Wonderful, wonderful. No, I totally agree, sir. And that actually brings me to my next question, wherein I want these inputs from you, that since skills denote employability, hence how to recycle that knowledge which we gained during our higher education or my engineering degrees. How do I recycle that knowledge and implement that as a skill while I'm working at an organization? What do you
Sure.
recommend?
Sure. So first, ideally, so I'm saying let's start with saying ideally what I should be doing within when I'm in a college, right?
Right.
And similarly here, I think to me, we are at a very interesting point in time where two things are happening. One is the technology allows me to access to a knowledge which I didn't have earlier. Okay. So ideally, I should be looking at the looking at issues and problems around me. It's not necessary. Some people talk about saying that, if I go to tier two and tier three cities, I may not have those industry around me, right? Now, to me, whether luckily or whichever way, actually in society we have a large number of problems around us. Whether you look at, the public systems around us, whether you look at a healthcare, whether you look at any part of, service delivery system, there are challenges. And I think so this idea that I can work on, I don't have to have a problem where I'm not able to find industry, right? It's a great if I can find industry sponsor who can help me there. But I'm saying today, if I just look at my own environment, you know, whether it's a healthcare system, whether it's an education system, I think there are opportunities or applying ideas where whatever I'm learning, whether I'm a management school, whether I'm an engineering school, I think there are problems around us on which we should be able to work. Ideal would be if the role of a faculty changes completely. See, in the past, somehow we felt the faculty is essentially source of knowledge.
Right.
Right? Now, unfortunately, in a tier two and tier three towns, the quality of education is not up to mark. But I'm saying using technology today, I can actually have access to one of the best faculty from IITs, IIMs, through MOOCs that's available. I think what is more important is how do I apply it, right? So if I see a role of a teacher should shift from a knowledge expert to help people understand how do you apply. So either it can be existing faculty or even to some extent, I'm sure one can reach out to alumni, some of them who have been more successful, who can mentor it. So to me, this whole idea that idea of application, that I need to apply what I'm doing, and second, I need to pick up a lot of life skills, right? Whether we are talking about our communication skills, team building skills, right? To me, both this, one is application, and second is this whole certain life skills. I should be able to pick up using, so I'm saying earlier so much focus was on the knowledge, and today I'm saying technology access to technology allows us to access the knowledge from one of the best faculty, right? So luckily, this whole earlier problem that I was not getting a good faculty in a tier 2 or tier 3 towns, because where would I get the faculty with the knowledge expertise? Suddenly, we've been able to break that. So if you are able to bring these issues, that get the knowledge using this one of the best people in the country, right? But can I get faculty or a mentor who will work on help me in the application and similarly pick up some of the life skills? So one is first making people aware that what will finally help you, right? Okay. So I think if we are able to do that, provide so one set of people are going to be self-motivated,
Right.
but they are in a circumstances. I'm in a uh, smaller town, for whatever reason I can't go outside. Now I have access to this. But for bulk of the people, somewhere we will have to figure it out a way in which we provide mentors who will help them pick up the application skill, where we look at a problem around them in a society. We don't have to go to actual industry. We look at a problem in our society, look at that problem, take help of mentor, and start applying it. And similarly, if you can provide access to certain way in which you can build some of the communication skills, some of the other skills, then some of them will go a long way. So I think if you are able to, unbundle and saying knowledge is going to come through this route, this application is going to come through this route, some of the life skills are going to come through this route. I think there is a huge opportunity, right? There's also issue of also somewhere idea that how are we going to prepare our workforce for future? I'm sure all of us have been going through this whole debate where what will all this the the whole sort of a new technologies, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robots, will that make employment completely so difficult, right? I mean, that concern all of us have, that where are the jobs going to come from, for a young country like India. But I think if you're able to combine a lot of things in a creative way, there is a possibility where you use this new technology to actually provide more jobs to this young people who may not have had access to probably high quality education, which probably some of us had. We were lucky, I mean, it's part of luck, right? The lottery which some of us were dealt with, where we ended up with a very high quality education. But I think today, both, as I said, the work, looking at what kind of jobs we need to create as a country, where are the opportunities going to be, it's possible to look at a future. So somewhere, when we ask this question, that what kind of skills we want to develop, or how do you want to reskill people, I think somewhere we will have to have a view of our future, saying, how do I look at this 2030, right? I mean, all of us have talked about dream that we want to become a 10 trillion economy, right? But what kind of future we see, and can we create, can we talk about a skills, whether we talk about a reskilling or upskilling, keeping that future in mind. So somewhere, because I don't think we're going to follow a journey the way China did. So all of us, keep looking at China and saying, look, China did it in this particular way. I think they were at that point in time where they could take a journey the way they did, where essentially initially starting with a low skill manufacturing, right? That was, similarly East Asia. I think we would have to find a different path. And it'll be important somewhere as a society to ask ourselves, what do we see ourselves when we look at 2030? Because even in 2030, we're going to remain a young country. Median age is still going to be 31. So if you're able to paint this, imagine ourselves, this is the kind of country we're talking about, which would need skills of this kind. If we're able to do that, then I think we will, all these dreams of 10 trillion economy, young, prosperous India, and doing a somewhere service to our young people, we'll be able to do it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sir, let me dwell down more on these points because these are very interesting points. Personally, I feel that we as a society have not been developed into those kind of problem solving skill sets.
Yes.
I view the society more as a consumer mindset than that of a creator mindset. Number one, what are your opinions on that? Number two, also help me understand what is your personal view of 2030, the vision for 2030. How do you see India growing in the
Sure. So I think one is, we have this large number of young people and we need to create meaningful jobs for them, right? Also, we have a huge opportunities. A lot of our problems are opportunities. Let's take any issue. For example, you look at agriculture, right? And you would say, when I see fruits and vegetable, when somebody says 30 to 40% of that get wasted, right? To me, it's an opportunity, right? Similarly, when we talk about a healthcare and say, we have very few doctors, right? The healthcare is the availability of healthcare is we saw all this, we are witnessing right now during COVID. So to me, there is a huge opportunity because all the services which we talk about, right? Whether it's a healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's a, any services which we talk about as a citizen, or sectors like agriculture, logistics. I work in a logistics space. I find there are huge opportunities which suddenly, this technology, this access to new technologies allow us to do things which earlier we couldn't have done. So let's just take a example of healthcare, right? Now, somebody could say that, this telemedicine, right? So we kept talking about saying doctors don't go to rural areas, smaller towns, right? And somebody says this telemedicine solves that problem. Unfortunately, telemedicine does not solve that problem because once you have a fewer doctors, right? While you still need doctors' time. If you have a fewer doctors, telemedicine is not going to solve the problem. What is going to solve the problem is if you are able to use this technology and enable human being who is not a doctor level, but have done a diploma, right, in healthcare, but you provide me technology through which you enable me to do 90% of the task for which actually doctor would do, only for the 10% of the time, or even maybe 2 or 3% of the time, I would actually go to a doctor because I can't handle it. Right. Now, suddenly what we have done is we have improved the quality of service in our smaller towns, right? And this is where I see a whole lot of entrepreneurial energy would be needed. So as an entrepreneur, I see an opportunity here. It could be just 10 to 20 people team, right? Using this technology, I would provide a service for which people will pay. So, we are saying it's an entrepreneur who sees an opportunity and able to do this in a, smaller towns. Now, suddenly when you look at it, you suddenly improving quality of service and you're generating jobs. And you can see this in every field. Right. Look at agriculture. Productivity is so low in agriculture, right? Again, right? We have a huge gap between what's available in our best engineering, agriculture and engineering colleges, and knowledge which is there at an extension work. I can see a same thing happening. Entrepreneur seeing this as an opportunity. And because he or she is going to charge, the customer would look for a value, right? Unlike when you see this as a pure government service where I don't have to pay for it, so I'm not sure whether I'm getting a value, right? But here, I think if you're able to say in every stage, the creator entrepreneur who will provide value and provide jobs. So what we have currently is a large number of so-called self-employed. And that's where I'm coming to your question about this whole issue that, are we job creators, right? So I think it's possible a lot of them, what people have been saying is a disguised unemployment in some sense, because I couldn't get an employment. I'm a street hawker, I'm calling myself self-employed. But I think with some amount of support within that, right? Finally, if you just look at even a neighborhood retailer, to me, he is an entrepreneur, right? So I think somewhere our strength is the entrepreneurial energy. So when we talk about so I don't think government is going to solve this problem, right? If we are able to figure it out where we unleash this energy by making it easier. I think one of the big problems we have is small and medium faces whole lot of unnecessary constraints. So we've been talking about doing, ease of business for MNCs, global companies. It'd be nice if we can solve this problem for a small entrepreneur. And that's where I see a future, because otherwise we had a growth even in last decade. Even when we had a growth, we had not increased the number of jobs, right? We kept talking about a jobless growth, right? Very marginal increase. In turn, created jobs in informal sector, but a lot of those jobs are relatively lower quality. So if you are able to, look at technology, use this to improve, right? Quality of service in agriculture, in logistics, each of the areas, there are huge inefficiency. You talk about logistics, right? We talk about the utilization of a truck. You talk about average distance traveled by a truck. I'm saying any field you look at it, whether it's a healthcare, whether it's education, whether you talk about, to some extent, this whole lot of inefficiencies which have been there, it's also an opportunity now, where using this technology, if you're able to get that knowledge which an expert has, provide, so with the result, entrepreneur focuses on a local area, hires 10-20 people, uses this technology. And to me, if you are able to do this, we will create a lot of jobs, as well as improve the quality of life, improve the economy. So to me, so when I look at a 2030, right, I look at 3 dimensions.
Okay.
One is first remove these inefficiencies, which will create a value and for which as a consumer I would be willing to pay. Yeah? Whether it's a primary health, whether it's agriculture, whether it's logistics, or even education, right? Second is, in the process, can I provide more value added service, right? So we talked about whether it's agriculture, right? First remove inefficiency, then I say, how do I help you add value, right? So then again, we have created this positive spiral, right? So first remove inefficiency, second, can you create more value addition? So for example, it's a fruit or these things, if the demand is for a pulp, can I do something around it, right? Can I help farmer use the optimal input in a way or even, for example, there could be opportunity for a pesticide-free fruits, opportunity for organic fruits, So we're talking about a higher value addition.
Yeah.
And third, to me, which is a great opportunity, that if you look at whole lot of societies around us, in the countries. So you look at Japan. Japan has a median age of 48, right? Similarly, Europe. Now, those countries are talking about saying when I look at my labor force, it's all aging people, right? Now, can we be labor force of the world? And to some extent, this whole, COVID has shown that a lot of things we are able to do work from home. So to some extent, what we did started about 20 years back, that whole, you know, industry we created, BPO industry, where we said we will provide you services from world. I think suddenly we can look at, for example, support to elderly people.
Right.
Now, earlier we would have said, I can do it only as a physical activity next to the person. Now we're saying there is a possibility of, doing lot of activities where I provide support using a technology sitting from here. So suddenly, if we start looking at ourselves as a workforce for a globe,
Yeah.
right? Then suddenly the kind of opportunities which are there, and again, I'm saying all this is because of the timing wise. The technology suddenly has allowed us to look at these ideas which were not there probably at 20 years back. So China took one model. We need to find our own model, which is not going to be, in my view, at least primarily manufacturing led. Okay. I'm not saying we need jobs everywhere. Okay. So it's not as if we need only this or that. We also need jobs in manufacturing. But in my view, bulk of the jobs are going to come in services, where the way we talked about, first removing inefficiency, second is in a smaller towns, not only urbanization, right? We're saying do this in a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 towns, use the local people, right, who've been studied there, upgrade their skills, keeping this in mind. So I see all these three: removing efficiency, doing higher value added, and the looking at ourselves as a labor force of world. Again, technology playing a big role in all these three areas. So that's the way I look at opportunity for India for a 2030. And technology allows us to do this, right? So we are in a very interesting stage. So if you are clear that this is the way we want to go, then it will throw up what kind of skills we need to develop. Right. And to me, this is very different skills from if I was preparing something or saying my primary model is going to be that I'm going to create a lot of manufacturing units in a let's say coastal near I'll create those trade-free zones and try and get a lot of factories and let those people come for that. So to me, I think there is an opportunity to look at a very different model and skill people for that, right?
Wonderful.
So let me stop here. I mean,
right, sir. Very, very wonderful, insightful views and very optimistic views. I'm sure our young entrepreneurs will grab these opportunities. This would be very helpful for them, what you have just suggested, these views. Wonderful. Sir, let me come down specifically to management education now.
Sure.
So I request your views, sir, how management education helps young minds to upgrade their skills, please. Can I have your views on this?
Sure. Yeah. So I think again, similar issues are there in management education, right? So we have almost close to 4,000. So the world has 12,000 business schools. Out of that, 3,000 to 4,000 are in India. Okay, so we are one of the largest as far as that, right? But again, if you leave aside the top 50, 60 schools, the quality drops significantly, right? So I think in a same way, right? So for example, I'm aware Bangalore has created a MOOCs, which essentially again a same way that so okay, let me step back. Essentially, what are the skills I should pick up when I as a management, graduate? The obviously I need to understand business function, right? And which all of us go through. Say I need to understand how to read a balance sheet. So I need to finance, marketing, all of them, right? But couple of things. So one is first management by you know this by nature is applied field. So I need to work on application. So those ideas are similar. But more importantly, I think there are a whole lot of skills, okay, which are going to remain valid even though industry keeps changing. So one of the question which is asked to me, quite often is saying if industry, as you rightly said, if industry is going to keep changing at a rapid pace, how do I prepare myself, for this changing world, right? Now, so that's where I feel uh, if you focus on certain skills, which to me will remain important irrespective of all these changes in industry. For example, the communication skill will remain a extremely important skill, right? Because finally, you're going to work with a team, you need to communicate your ideas. So building those communication skills. Similarly, problem solving skills you talked about, right? Which is, given any particular problem, how do you structure a problem? How do you analyze and come up with those various options? So the whole structured way of looking at a problem solving, managing teams, right? Because finally, even in a technology intensive work, you're going to manage the teams. So I think uh, if I am able to ensure that I build those skills, then I would continue to remain. And obviously, most important skill which you started by saying learning to learn. That how do I develop this capability to learn? Which is saying you throw me in a different industry. How do I learn about that industry? Right now, again, as I was talking about earlier, today knowledge is something we should be able to get from MOOCs using one of the best faculty in the world. Right? As I said, Bangalore has created a lot of MOOCs, which I'm sure they've made it available to a whole lot of schools. And a lot of other institutions also want to do. So again, going back to the way, the kind of faculty you need in a tier 2 or tier 3 schools are going to be, so I'm focusing first on the tier 2 or 3 skills and then I'll come back to tier 1. Right. So I'm saying same model where get people who will help you more on application rather than the domain knowledge, right? And look at opportunities around you to apply those ideas and pick up the skills which will remain important for you in the life. Okay. Then what will happen is, even though, so one more skill which all of us will have to, develop are essentially, how to use new technology. How do you look at those technology from a business perspective, right? Now, unfortunately, traditionally in a management, we are not focused on that, right? Saying we don't help you understand that here is a new technology, whether it's a 3D printing or whether, so any of those new technology, right? So how's, for example, going to use AI in your own, whichever area, whether it's whether insurance, whichever domain, or your marketing, right? If I'm going to do a digital marketing, how I'm going to use this? So I think bringing somewhere a digital into our curriculum is going to be important. And the analytics, because the future is going to be, these are going to be important tools which all of us need to have. apart from so this is true, equally true for a tier 1 schools also, right? Because today we don't do enough of the digital and analytics in our curriculum. So I think it's become going to be imperative that how do we bring digital and analytics into our curriculum? How do we get students to work on a more applied problems, create opportunity where they look at applied problems and using this idea, and pick up this skills which are going to be valid irrespective of whichever industry you picked up.
Right.
And I'm saying if you do that, then you're not preparing only for a first job, but you're preparing yourself for a much longer term. So I don't know whether I answered your question or I went into a different
No,
trip.
no, absolutely. Let me come to the practical aspect of
Sure.
actually getting down and skilling the people, sir.
Right.
From a business perspective, if I see, businesses are always very competitive. How management of upskilling is plausible in a competitive environment industry scenario?
Yeah.
How do you suggest that, sir?
So I think this is where the way we were talking about, even this is a good business opportunity, right? So the key is finally, I must impart a skill which will add value, and I should be able to see that I was going to get a job which was a 10,000 rupee job,
Right.
and because I picked up the skill, I'm going to get a job which is going to be 15,000.
Right.
So I think somewhere what we need to do, especially in a skilling, you have to move away from a number game.
Okay.
I think unfortunately, a lot of those push have been more in terms of that I have trained, 10,000 people. Now, if those skills are not really valued by a customer, in this particular case, employer, then, honestly, those skills are not worth anything. So I think we'll have to move away from this whole lot of number driven, which is more input driven, which is saying I have trained 10,000 people, each of 30 hours or whatever, right? I think somewhere we'll have to say, unless, so for example, there's a lot of warehousing jobs which are coming up, or there's a lot of jobs which are going to come up for a delivery, right? Now, if I can, ensure that I've given a skill which are going to be valued by Swiggy or Amazon of the world, then essentially, as an individual, you'll also be willing to pay me. So I think in a skilling also we'll have to bring a market and maybe do it in a more smaller chunks kind of thing, saying that maybe there are levels of certification. Make sure that you only initially pay for this level 1 only. I should be able to translate into getting a job, and then I keep upgrading myself. So I think, somewhere moving away from a number driven, input driven to much more industry partnership, right? Where essentially saying what would you value, and which should get translated into actually people picking up you for that, right? Okay. This was one big challenge earlier. I still remember we were so this is true in a construction industry, true in a logistics industry. So initially people came up with a certification, and we found respective industry itself was not willing to give a premium for any one of them, right? I'm saying somewhere, if I as a user is not willing to value it, right? So that's why it will have to be driven with the industry, and luckily industry has realized the need, right? That we need to play a role. So somewhere, even if it looks like you're going at a slightly slower pace, right? But ensuring it is industry driven, where there is a market, you create a market for, entrepreneurs, and they will have to, even if you say initially we'll provide 20%, but 80% has to come from a value they get from the so I think same logic will have to come in, that as a user I see a value, and that's the reason that I'm enrolling in that part. So we'll have to bring a market into this with a support from an industry, right? And to me that's the only way, right? So creative energy of the animal spirit of entrepreneur will have to come in. They will have to make sure that I'm providing a useful skills which are valued by industry. So it'll be a slower start, but I'm saying we'll be in a right direction, because as an entrepreneur, when I provide that, I'll be forced to ensure that I use appropriate technology. I make sure I'm driven from the value which I provide to industry.
Very candid views there, sir. Absolutely. And I totally agree that we have been into that number game, and that is the biggest issue which we need to sort it out. Right, sir. Let me come down to my last question, sir. And we have been speaking, the government of India has been speaking a lot about Skill India and Atmanirbhar Bharat. How can management education synergize with both Skill India and Atmanirbhar Bharat initiatives of government of India? I request your views, please.
Sure. So actually so I'll come to Skill India in a minute, but Atmanirbhar, I think somewhere the term, right? Though Prime Minister himself talked about it in a different way, I think we need to be a little careful. I think to me, it's also preparing ourselves for a world. So it's not only he himself has been talking about it, but if you just look at this as a world as the Atmanirbhar, I think we are saying we should also be, supplying to world, which is, I come back to that original idea I talked about, where I think because we are going to be having a demographic, the demographics on our side, demographics, we need to see whole lot of opportunity of being a labor force for a world. So I think I would look at it from that perspective, and Prime Minister has actually kept talking about it, right? But somewhere a lot of people take it as a purely self-reliant. I think it has to go beyond that, right? So that's one part. The skill, I think, probably as a management institution, I think we probably can play a big role in looking at this whole industry of providing skills. The way we talked about, since we need large number of entrepreneurs there, I think maybe as a management institution, we should be training this. So when you look at an entrepreneur who's going to work on this of skill providing, I think the way we talk about education management, I think it's an opportunity for us where we should be able to, put together sort of a right curriculum which prepares these entrepreneurs who in turn will, so there are two parts to it. One is because we are closer to industry, right? We should be able to help in creating that sort of a model curriculum, right? With those elements, which also talks about application part of it.
Right.
And as well as training whole lot of entrepreneurs, right? Who can take up this. Because to me, so as I said, finally it has to be industry driven.
Right.
It has to be something which add value, right? And as a individual, I should be able to see that value from the outcome, not from a. And I think there is a possibility that as a management institutions, we can actually play both role, because we understand industry, right? A lot of us work in a close contact with industry. So ensure that the design of a curriculum in a broader way, right, have the right elements and train entrepreneurs for this whole Skill India, because as you rightly said, it's a massive exercise, right? When you talk about skilling as well as reskilling, probably we have not played that role so far, but I do see that as an opportunity in the way in which we can contribute. And as I said, the I you know to some extent that Atmanirbhar has all those elements which I was talking about earlier, which is saying, can we, whether we talk about a Atmanirbhar smaller town, which is saying within that town, can I create capability to improve the quality of service, right? So this whole idea of I don't need to have everybody, going to only metros. Can I create that opportunities using this technology? So I think if I can ensure that both areas, whether we talk about a Skill India, whether we talk about Atmanirbhar Bharat, can I again use a technology, right, as a big enabler of driving both this initiative and define it in a way, right, where we actually prepare ourselves for a, the way we imagine country for a 2030, right? If we imagine ourselves, and as I said, I firmly believe, obviously we'll have to create jobs everywhere. So I'm not trying to say, I don't think we have that kind of choice saying we need only this or that, right? I think we need jobs everywhere. But in my view, bulk of the jobs are going to come from a services which are going to be technology enabled, right? And look at opportunities everywhere, right? And it'll have to be, I mean, some of them can be sort of supported by government, but it has to have an entrepreneurial energy, right? Because that will ensure that you're doing it from a value. You're providing a value to a customer, right, or a consumer, and he or she is willing to pay for that service, right? Which will ensure that you know we work in a right set of things, and they will keep making those right modification, right? Because otherwise consumer will not pay for it, right? So I think again, timing wise, the to some extent the COVID has forced all of us where technology, we become used to using technology and a lot of things. I think use those technologies and work on whole lot of this idea. So I'm uh, I'm an optimist, and I'm saying even history has shown, that whenever those technology revolutions happened, initially people always thought technology stealing jobs, right? Okay, but finally, so if somebody asks me a question, show me all those jobs. Honestly, I don't have answer,
Right.
right? But at the same time, when you look at a history, and if you somewhere trust entrepreneurship, you'll find they will figure it out because opportunities are there, right? As I said, opportunities. The problems are the opportunities. When we say our quality of service, I mean, agriculture is such a poor productivity, healthcare has such a huge problem, right? Each of them is an opportunity, right? So finally, entrepreneurial energy will figure those out, right? And it'll solve our jobs problem. It'll get us into positive spiral. But again, the key thing would be we'll have to remove a whole lot of barriers which are there for a small entrepreneur. I'm saying I'm not talking about this for a big, global MNCs and all that. It's good to solve that for that. It's a government is doing wonderful thing there. But I think if you're able to remove a whole lot of obstacles which are there for a small and medium enterprise, right? That's where using technology we can do something which will solve countries a lot of problems and create jobs. So that's to me, I mean, I go back and for example, we've always seen that when we just look at a world today and say, so for example, there was a famous work done somewhere in 1970s where a group of MIT professors, it's the famous study club, Club of Rome study. We talk about limits of growth, and they said when we look at the resources available with the planet, the agriculture, land, all that, there is a limit to growth, right? And they said we'll have to reduce our consumption and all that. Now, world. So, for example, look at oil, right? We all looked at saying that oil is going to run out, but somewhere, there's a creativity, there's a technology. Together, we find those solutions. Okay, so I think trusting that part, that if you get this entrepreneurial energy, use technology, right? I'm sure we'll figure our way out. Kind of thing. That's the way I look at it. I look at
Wonderful.
less top down, but lot more creating enabling environment, and let animal spirit free, and we'll find answers.
Wonderful, wonderful. Very optimistic views there, sir. And technology and entrepreneurship is the mantra coming out from Professor Shah. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us today and sharing your thoughts. I'm sure this would definitely motivate young Indians to continuously upskill themselves and help them to succeed as well. With this, we will wrap up the session. And once again, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Anshul, for a wonderful conversation. I enjoyed this.